Keep an eye out for the golden star during the video. If you spot it, comment the time you saw it, and you'll get a shout out in our next video. Happy hunting! Journey to Earth's core, uncovering hidden worlds and ancient rivalries. The year was 2050, and the world was poised on the brink of a new geological age. Dr. Cassandra Cassie Hale stood on the edge of a vast chasm that had unexpectedly opened in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. It was an unprecedented seismic event, one that had scientists across the globe in a frenzy. Cassie, a renowned geologist, had been summoned to lead the expedition to explore the mysteries lurking beneath the Earth's crust. As she gazed into the abyss, Cassie's mind raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The chasm yawned wide, revealing a labyrinth of glowing caverns and bioluminescent flora that no one had ever seen before. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to rewrite the very understanding of Earth's geological history. But it was also a perilous journey into the unknown. Cassie glanced at the team assembled around her. They were a group of elite scientists and explorers, each an expert in their field. There was Dr. Raj Patel, a biologist specializing in extremophiles, and Dr. Mei Ling, a physicist with a keen interest in subterranean environments. Together, they represented the pinnacle of human knowledge and curiosity. "We're standing on the threshold of history," Cassie addressed her team, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "What we discover here could change everything we know about our planet. But remember, this is uncharted territory. We must proceed with caution and respect for whatever we might find down there." The base camp was a hub of activity, filled with the hum of generators and the chatter of excited voices. High-tech equipment lined the tents. Seismic sensors, advanced drilling tools, and a state-of-the-art communications array to keep them connected to the surface world. Cassie walked through the camp, taking in the sight of her team preparing for the descent. As night fell, the rainforest around them came alive with sounds, but the chasm seemed to absorb all light and noise, an eerie void in the vibrant jungle. Cassie retired to her tent, the weight of her responsibilities settling heavily on her shoulders. She pulled out a worn leather journal, one that had belonged to her father, a renowned geologist in his own right. "Dad, I wish you were here to see this," she thought, running her fingers over the faded pages filled with notes and sketches. His legacy was a constant presence in her life, driving her to push boundaries and seek out the unknown. This expedition was as much about honoring his memory as it was about scientific discovery. The next morning, as the sun rose over the dense canopy, casting long shadows over the chasm, Cassie felt a renewed sense of purpose. She gathered her team for a final briefing. "Today, we embark on a journey that could define the future of geology. We have prepared for every eventuality, but we must remain vigilant. Our mission is to explore and document, not to disturb or exploit." With that, the team began their descent into the earth. The initial entry was a controlled rappel down the sheer rock face, the ropes and harnesses tested meticulously. As they lowered themselves into the cavern, the temperature dropped, and the air became thicker, tinged with a metallic scent. Cassie's headlamp cut through the darkness, revealing walls adorned with glowing fungi and crystalline structures. The bioluminescence created an otherworldly ambience, casting a soft, ethereal light on everything it touched. They reached a wide ledge that opened into a vast underground chamber. The team gathered, their voices hushed in awe. "Unbelievable," whispered Raj, his eyes wide as he surveyed the alien landscape. Mei Ling approached Cassie, her expression one of both wonder and concern. "We need to document everything meticulously. This ecosystem appears incredibly delicate." Cassie nodded, her mind racing with the possibilities. They set up a temporary base on the ledge, unpacking equipment and preparing for a more thorough exploration. Each team member moved with purpose, their training and expertise evident in their precise actions. As they ventured deeper, Cassie couldn't help but feel a profound sense of connection to the world around her. Every step they took was a step into history, into a realm that had existed long before humanity. It was a humbling experience, reminding her of the fragility and wonder of life. By the end of the day, they had made significant progress. They had mapped the initial section of the cavern, collected samples of the strange flora, and recorded data on the unusual atmospheric conditions. As they gathered around their makeshift camp, the sense of camaraderie was palpable. "We've only just scratched the surface," Cassie said, her voice filled with determination. "But what we've found already is beyond anything we could have imagined. Tomorrow we push further. We'll uncover the secrets of this place, and in doing so, we'll honor the legacy of all those who came before us." The team nodded in agreement, their spirits high despite the unknown challenges that lay ahead. Cassie lay down in her tent that night, exhaustion mingling with anticipation. She knew this was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey, one that would test their limits and redefine their understanding of the world beneath their feet. The dawn of a new day in the subterranean world brought with it a renewed sense of purpose for Dr. Cassandra, Cassie, Hale, and her team. As they broke camp and prepared to delve deeper into the Earth's core, the excitement was palpable. Cassie could see it in the determined faces of her colleagues, each one eager to contribute to this groundbreaking exploration. Their initial descent had been meticulous, a controlled rappel down the sheer rock face. Now, they faced the challenge of navigating a labyrinthine network of tunnels and chambers. The air grew cooler as they moved further from the surface, and the scent of earth and minerals became more pronounced. Cassie led the way, her headlamp illuminating the path ahead. The bioluminescent flora and crystalline structures created an otherworldly glow, casting eerie shadows on the cavern walls. The team walked in a hushed awe, their senses heightened by the alien beauty surrounding them. They reached a narrow passage that seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness. Cassie paused, turning to her team. "This is where things get tricky," she said. "Stay close and watch your step. We don't know what lies ahead." Dr. Raj Patel, ever the optimist, gave a reassuring smile. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. This is what we came here for." As they squeezed through the narrow passage, the walls seemed to close in around them. The sense of claustrophobia was palpable, but Cassie focused on her breathing, steady and measured. Her mind drifted to her father's journal, his notes on similar explorations and the dangers they had faced. She felt a kinship with him in these moments, a shared passion for the unknown. The passage opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in the shadows above. Stalactites and stalagmites created a natural cathedral, and the team's headlamps revealed a hidden lake at the center, its waters shimmering with an ethereal light. Cassie couldn't help but be awestruck by the sight. "Unreal?" whispered Dr. Mei Ling. "It's like stepping into another world." Cassie nodded. "We need to take samples and document everything. This ecosystem is unlike anything we've seen before." As the team set to work, Cassie took a moment to reflect on the enormity of their discovery. The subterranean lake, with its strange, glowing waters, hinted at an entire biosphere waiting to be uncovered. The possibilities were endless, and with each new revelation, they inched closer to rewriting the geological history of the Earth. While Raj collected water samples, Mei Ling measured atmospheric conditions, noting the high oxygen levels and unusual mineral content. The team worked in sync, their expertise complementing each other, forming a seamless unit. Cassie moved towards a cluster of bioluminescent fungi, her mind racing with questions. What could survive in such an environment? What evolutionary paths had these organisms taken? As she delicately collected samples, she felt a sense of responsibility. Their presence here was both a privilege and a burden. They had to tread carefully, respecting the delicate balance of this hidden world. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the chamber, causing everyone to freeze. The ground beneath them trembled, a reminder of the volatile nature of their surroundings. Cassie's heart pounded as she scanned the chamber for any signs of danger. "Everyone, stay calm," she instructed. "Let's regroup and assess the situation." The rumbling subsided, leaving an uneasy silence in its wake. Cassie gathered her team, their faces mirroring her concern. "We need to be prepared for anything. This place is still very much alive, and we are intruders here." Raj nodded, his usual optimism tempered by caution. Let's stick together and move methodically. We can't afford any mistakes." With the tremor serving as a stark reminder of their precarious position, the team continued their exploration, but with heightened vigilance. Every sound, every shadow seemed to carry potential threats. They moved deeper into the cavern, discovering new flora and fauna, each discovery more astounding than the last. As they ventured further, they came across a series of petroglyphs etched into the cavern walls. Cassie's pulse quickened at the sight. These markings suggested that humans or another intelligent species had once been here. The implications were staggering. "These carvings are ancient," Mei Ling said, running her fingers over the intricate designs. "This changes everything." Cassie studied the petroglyphs, her mind racing with the possibilities. "We need to document this and compare it with known ancient cultures. This could be a link to a forgotten chapter of human history." The discovery of the petroglyphs injected a new sense of urgency into their mission. They meticulously recorded every detail, aware that they were on the verge of a groundbreaking revelation. As the day wore on, exhaustion began to set in, but the team pressed on, driven by the significance of their findings. When they finally set up camp for the night, the sense of camaraderie was stronger than ever. They were not just explorers. They were pioneers venturing into the last great unknown. Cassie lay in her sleeping bag, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. The cavern had revealed so much, yet there was still so much left to uncover. She knew they had only scratched the surface, and the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. But she also knew they were ready. "This is what we came here for," she thought, staring up at the cavern ceiling, barely visible in the dim light. "To explore, to discover, and to push the boundaries of human knowledge." With that thought, she closed her eyes, drifting into a restless sleep filled with dreams of ancient civilizations and undiscovered worlds. The expedition was only beginning, and the secrets of the Earth's core awaited. The next morning, the team awoke with renewed vigor, the mysteries of the previous day fueling their determination. The cavern's cool air and faint luminescence created an atmosphere both serene and surreal. Cassie Hale led her team deeper into the labyrinth, her mind fixed on the petroglyphs they had discovered. Each step felt like a stride back in time, uncovering secrets buried for millennia. As they moved forward, the passage widened, and the sound of water grew louder, echoing through the cavern. They arrived at a new chamber, larger than any they had previously encountered. A majestic underground waterfall cascaded into a pool that shimmered with an unnatural light, casting an ethereal glow around the room. Dr. Mei Ling stood in awe, her eyes reflecting the iridescent hues of the pool. "Incredible," she breathed. "This place defies all our expectations." Cassie agreed. "We need to document everything here. This waterfall could be crucial to understanding the ecosystem." The team spread out, each member absorbed in their tasks. Raj Patel crouched by the pool, carefully collecting water samples, while Mei Ling set up her instruments to measure the environmental variables. Cassie watched them work, a sense of pride and camaraderie swelling within her. They were on the brink of monumental discoveries. Just as they settled into their work, a sudden noise echoed through the chamber, followed by the sound of voices. Cassie turned to see a group of people entering the chamber from another passage. Her heart sank as she recognized the figure at the forefront. Victor Kane, her old rival. Victor's team of explorers, clad in advanced gear, looked just as surprised to see Cassie and her team. Victor stepped forward, his expression a mix of surprise and satisfaction. Well, Dr. Hale. Fancy meeting you down here." Cassie felt a surge of frustration but kept her voice steady. "Victor, I didn't expect to see you here. What brings you to this part of the world?" Victor's smile was thin and calculating. "Same as you, I suppose. Discovery, exploration, and perhaps a bit of fortune along the way." Cassie's eyes narrowed. "This isn't about fortune, Victor. This is about understanding a part of our world that's been hidden for ages." Victor shrugged nonchalantly. "To each their own, Cassie. But I do have to say your timing couldn't be better. We've just made some fascinating finds of our own." Cassie's mind raced. Victor's presence complicated everything. His reputation for prioritizing profit over preservation made him a threat to the delicate balance they were trying to maintain. She had to tread carefully, ensuring that their discoveries didn't fall into the wrong hands. Before she could respond, a member of Victor's team approached with a data tablet, whispering something in his ear. Victor's eyes lit up with interest, and he turned back to Cassie. "I'd love to chat more, but we have some urgent matters to attend to. Best of luck with your exploration." With that, Victor and his team moved off, leaving Cassie and her team to process the unexpected encounter. Raj approached, concern etched on his face. "What do we do now, Cassie?" Victor's not exactly known for his ethical considerations. Cassie took a deep breath, steadying herself. "We stick to our plan. We document, we preserve, and we share our findings with the scientific community. We can't let his presence distract us from our mission." Mei Ling nodded in agreement. "We'll need to keep an eye on them, though. Make sure they don't interfere with our work." Cassie agreed. "Absolutely. But for now, let's focus on what we came here to do. We've already made incredible progress, and there's so much more to uncover." The team returned to their tasks, but the encounter with Victor lingered in their minds. Cassie knew that their expedition had just become more complicated. Victor's presence was a reminder of the stakes involved, scientific discovery clashing with human greed. As the day wore on, they made significant progress in documenting the new chamber. Raj's analysis of the water samples revealed unique microbial life forms, while Mei Ling's atmospheric measurements provided insights into the cavern's unusual environmental conditions. Cassie meticulously recorded their findings, her mind constantly returning to the petroglyphs and what they might signify. By evening, they had gathered a wealth of data, but the looming presence of Victor's team cast a shadow over their achievements. Cassie called the team together for a meeting around their makeshift camp. "We need to stay vigilant," she said. "Victor's team is well-equipped and motivated by different goals. We can't let them undermine our work." Raj nodded. "We should set up a schedule for watches. Make sure we're always aware of their movements." Mei Ling added, "And we should document everything in real time, uploading data to the satellite whenever possible. That way, even if something happens, our discoveries won't be lost." Cassie agreed with their suggestions. "Good ideas. Let's get some rest now. Tomorrow we push further into the cavern. There's still so much to uncover." As they settled in for the night, Cassie lay awake, her thoughts racing. The subterranean world held secrets beyond their wildest dreams, but it also harbored dangers, both from the environment and from those who would exploit its wonders. She resolved to protect this hidden realm, honoring her father's legacy and the integrity of scientific discovery. "This is what we came here for," she reminded herself. "To explore, to discover, and to protect." With that thought, she closed her eyes, readying herself for the challenges and discoveries that awaited in the depths of the earth. Morning broke with an almost eerie calm in the subterranean world. The team gathered their equipment and prepared to push deeper into the cavern, unaware that this day would test them in ways they had not anticipated. Cassie Hale led the charge, her mind focused on the petroglyphs and the secrets they hinted at. The ambient glow of bioluminescent fungi cast long shadows as they moved, giving the chamber an otherworldly quality. As they navigated a narrow passage, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Cassie halted, signaling the team to steady themselves. The tremors grew stronger, sending loose rocks tumbling from the walls. The quakes were a stark reminder of the volatile nature of their environment. "Everyone, hold on to something stable," Cassie shouted, her voice barely audible over the rumble. The tremors intensified, and suddenly, a section of the passage collapsed, revealing a hidden tunnel. Cassie's heart raced. The tunnel could lead to new discoveries, but it also posed significant risks. "Dr. Hale, over here," Raj's voice called out, echoing through the newly opened tunnel. Cassie turned to see him peering into the darkness, a mixture of excitement and caution on his face. Just as they began to regroup, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Interesting find, Cassie. Mind if we join you?" Victor Kane and his team emerged from the shadows, their expressions predatory. Cassie's pulse quickened. This was the last thing they needed. "We don't have time for this, Victor," Cassie said, her tone firm. "This tunnel could be unstable. We need to proceed with caution." Victor smirked, his eyes glinting with challenge. "Or maybe it leads to something extraordinary. Why don't we find out together?" Before Cassie could respond, Victor's team surged forward, ignoring the danger. Frustration and anger boiled within her, but she had to keep her focus. She motioned for her team to follow, determined not to let Victor jeopardize their mission. As they ventured into the tunnel, the space grew tighter, forcing them to move single file. The air became thick with dust, and the light from their headlamps flickered against the rough walls. Tension hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the tunnel widened into a massive cavern. Cassie's breath caught in her throat. Stalactites hung like ancient chandeliers from the ceiling, and a river of molten magma flowed below, casting a fiery glow that illuminated the entire chamber. It was both magnificent and perilous. Victor's team wasted no time, setting up equipment near the magma flow, oblivious to the potential hazards. Cassie's frustration reached its peak. "Victor, stop!" she shouted, marching toward him. "You're endangering everyone here. This environment is too unstable for reckless exploration." Victor turned to face her, his expression darkening. "Don't lecture me, Cassie. We're here to make discoveries, not play it safe." Before Cassie could argue further, a loud crack echoed through the chamber. The ground beneath them began to shift, and suddenly, the ledge they were standing on gave way. Cassie instinctively grabbed onto a rock protrusion, her legs dangling over the molten river. "Hold on," Raj shouted, rushing to her aid. He pulled her up with all his strength, and they both collapsed onto the solid ground, breathing heavily. Chaos erupted as the teams scrambled to safety. Rocks rained down from above, and the magma flow surged, its heat searing. Cassie's mind raced. They had to get out and fast. "Everyone, head back to the tunnel," she commanded, her voice cutting through the panic. "Move now." Victor's team hesitated, but the urgency in Cassie's voice spurred them into action. They raced back toward the tunnel, navigating the collapsing terrain with desperate speed. As they reached the relative safety of the tunnel, Cassie turned to Victor, fury in her eyes. "This is exactly what I warned you about. Your recklessness almost got us killed." Victor's face was pale, but his defiance remained. "We're here to take risks, Cassie. That's the nature of exploration." Cassie's anger flared. "There's a difference between taking calculated risks and being irresponsible. You put everyone in danger. This isn't just about discovery, it's about survival." The tension between them crackled like the shifting rocks around them. Raj stepped forward, his calm demeanor cutting through the hostility. "We need to work together if we're going to make it through this. Let's focus on getting out safely first." Reluctantly, Victor nodded, and the teams began their cautious retreat through the tunnel. The return journey was fraught with the constant threat of further collapses, but Cassie kept them moving, her determination unwavering. When they finally emerged into the original cavern, the relief was palpable. Cassie took a deep breath, steadying herself. They had survived, but the danger was far from over. She knew that the subterranean world held many more secrets and many more challenges. "We need to regroup and reassess our approach," she said, addressing both teams. "Our priority is safety. We can't afford any more mistakes." Victor nodded, a grudging respect in his eyes. "Agreed. Let's take this one step at a time." Cassie felt a flicker of hope. If they could find common ground, perhaps they stood a chance. The subterranean world was vast and unforgiving, but it also held the promise of incredible discoveries. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, navigating the depths of the earth and the complexities of human ambition. The teams awoke with a collective sense of urgency. The previous day's events had made it clear that their mission required a careful balance of caution and exploration. Cassie Hale gathered her team, her mind racing with strategies to navigate the challenges ahead, while keeping an eye on Victor and his crew. As they prepared to delve deeper, Cassie addressed her team. Today, we focus on thorough documentation and analysis. Stay close, stay vigilant, and remember our priority is the integrity of this environment. Raj and Mei Ling nodded, their determination matching Cassie's resolve. They moved out, the bioluminescent flora casting soft glows on their faces as they ventured into the newly discovered passageways. The tunnel they entered was narrow and winding, forcing them to move carefully. The air was thick with moisture, and the walls were lined with strange, glowing moss. Cassie led the way, her senses heightened by the memory of the previous day's near disaster. As they progressed, the tunnel opened into a cavern unlike any they had seen. Massive crystal formations jutted from the ground and ceiling, refracting the light from their headlamps into a dazzling array of colors. It was like stepping into a kaleidoscope, the colors shifting and changing with every movement. "This is remarkable," Mei Ling whispered, her voice filled with awe. "We need to take samples of these crystals. They could hold unique properties." Cassie agreed. "Let's set up a temporary base here and start our analysis. Raj, can you take some atmospheric readings? May focus on the crystal structures." As the team set to work, the sense of discovery and purpose reasserted itself. Cassie felt a surge of pride watching her colleagues operate with such precision and expertise. She turned her attention to the petroglyphs they had discovered earlier, meticulously comparing them to known ancient symbols. Hours passed as they gathered data and samples. Raj discovered that the atmospheric conditions in the crystal cavern were even more unique than they had anticipated, with traces of gases not found on the surface. May's analysis of the crystals revealed unusual molecular structures that hinted at unknown mineral compositions. Cassie was engrossed in her work when she heard a commotion from the other side of the cavern. She looked up to see Victor and his team setting up drilling equipment near one of the largest crystal formations. Her frustration flared. "Victor, what are you doing?" she called out, striding towards him. "You can't just start drilling without understanding the potential consequences." Victor turned, his expression impatient. "Cassie, these crystals could be incredibly valuable. We need to analyze them thoroughly, and that requires samples." "You're putting this entire environment at risk," Cassie countered. "We need to proceed with caution, not brute force." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Your caution is going to slow us down. We're here to make breakthroughs, not tiptoe around." Before Cassie could respond, a low rumble resonated through the cavern. The crystal formations began to vibrate, emitting a high-pitched hum. The sound grew louder, reverberating off the walls and creating a disorienting cacophony. "Everyone, back away from the crystals," Cassie shouted, her voice barely audible over the noise. "Move to the edges of the cavern now." Panic ensued as both teams scrambled to retreat. The vibrations intensified, and cracks began to form in the crystals, light pouring from within them in blinding beams. Cassie grabbed Raj's arm, pulling him away from a crystal just as it shattered, sending shards flying in all directions. The ground beneath them trembled violently, and chunks of rock began to fall from the ceiling. Cassie's mind raced. They had to find a way out before the cavern collapsed. "Head for the tunnel we came through," she commanded, her voice urgent. "Stay low and move quickly." They navigated the chaos, dodging falling debris and crystal shards. The noise was deafening, a constant barrage of high-pitched tones and crashing rocks. Cassie kept her focus, her only goal to get her team to safety. As they reached the tunnel, a massive crystal formation near the entrance began to fracture. Cassie's heart pounded as she realized they had only moments to get through. "Go, go, go," she urged, pushing Raj and May ahead of her. Victor's team followed, driven by a shared instinct for survival. Just as the last of them made it through the tunnel entrance, the crystal shattered, sending a shockwave through the cavern. The tunnel behind them collapsed, sealing off the crystal chamber with a thunderous crash. Breathing heavily, Cassie turned to her team, relief mingling with exhaustion. They had narrowly escaped disaster, but the tension between the two groups was palpable. Victor's expression was a mix of anger and frustration. "This is what happens when you hold us back, Cassie. We could have managed that situation if we weren't so busy playing it safe." Cassie's temper flared, but she kept her voice steady. This isn't about playing it safe, Victor. It's about respecting the environment and ensuring we don't destroy what we're here to study. We need to find a way to work together, or we won't survive down here. The team stood in uneasy silence, the echoes of the disaster still ringing in their ears. Cassie took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. They had faced a significant setback, but the mission was far from over. She had to find a way to navigate the complexities of their situation, balancing the drive for discovery with the imperative of preservation. "We need to regroup," she said finally. "Assess the damage and figure out our next steps. There's still so much to uncover, but we can't afford any more mistakes." Victor nodded grudgingly, and the teams began to move, their minds filled with the challenges and possibilities that lay ahead. Cassie felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her, but she was resolved. They would continue their journey, deeper into the heart of the earth, guided by the dual imperatives of knowledge and survival. As the teams moved deeper into the subterranean labyrinth, an uneasy truce hung between them. The memory of their narrow escape from the crystal cavern was fresh in everyone's minds, fueling both caution and determination. Cassie Hale kept a vigilant eye on her surroundings, every sense on high alert. The subterranean world was a place of beauty and peril, and the tension between exploration and survival was palpable. They reached a new chamber, its walls adorned with ancient petroglyphs that seemed to tell a story of an advanced civilization that had once thrived below the surface. The air was thick with the scent of minerals, and the ground was uneven, dotted with strange, luminescent plants. "Set up the equipment here," Cassie instructed. "We need to document these markings and analyze the soil samples." Raj and Mei Ling began their tasks with precision, their movements reflecting the urgency and significance of their mission. Cassie joined them, her mind racing with thoughts of the potential discoveries that lay ahead. Just as they settled into their work, a loud crash echoed through the chamber, followed by shouts. Cassie spun around to see Victor's team setting up heavy drilling equipment near a particularly fragile section of the chamber wall. "What the hell are you doing?" Cassie shouted, striding toward Victor. "That wall is unstable. You'll bring the whole chamber down on us." Victor glared at her, his expression defiant. "We need to take core samples to understand the geological history here. We can't make progress if we don't take risks." "This isn't about progress. It's about recklessness," Cassie retorted. "If that wall collapses, we're all dead. We need to find a safer way." Before Victor could respond, a deep rumble resonated through the chamber. The ground shook violently, and the unstable wall began to crack. Cassie's heart raced. They had to move and fast. "Everyone, get back," she commanded, waving her team away from the crumbling wall. "Find cover." Panic ensued as both teams scrambled to safety. The wall gave way with a deafening crash, sending a cloud of dust and debris into the air. Chunks of rock fell from above, and the ground beneath them shifted precariously. Cassie's mind raced. They needed to find a way out of the collapsing chamber. She scanned the area, her eyes landing on a narrow passageway partially obscured by fallen rocks. "This way," she shouted, pointing to the passage. "Move quickly." The teams dashed toward the passage, navigating the chaos with desperate speed. The ground continued to tremble, and the sound of crashing rocks was deafening. Cassie led the way, her determination unwavering despite the danger. As they reached the passage, a loud explosion echoed behind them. Cassie turned to see that one of Victor's drilling machines had malfunctioned, sending a burst of flames and debris into the air. "Keep moving," she urged, pushing her team through the narrow opening. The passage was tight and winding, but it offered a chance at safety. They emerged into a smaller, more stable chamber, gasping for breath and covered in dust. Cassie turned to Victor, her eyes blazing with anger. "Your recklessness nearly got us killed. We need to find a way to work together, or this expedition is doomed." Victor's face was pale, his defiance tempered by the realization of the danger they had just escaped. "You're right," he said grudgingly. "We can't afford any more mistakes." Cassie nodded, her resolve firm. We need to focus on the task at hand. There's still so much to uncover, but we have to be smart about it. They set up a temporary base in the new chamber, taking stock of their situation and assessing the damage. The air was thick with tension, but there was also a sense of grim determination. They had faced a significant setback, but the mission was far from over. As they worked, Cassie noticed something strange about the walls of the new chamber. They were covered in a fine, crystalline dust that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. She approached Raj, who was examining a sample of the dust under a portable microscope. "Raj, what do you make of this?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Raj looked up, his eyes wide with excitement. "This dust is unlike anything I've ever seen. It has unique properties that could provide insights into the geological processes at work here. We need to analyze it further." Cassie nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Despite the challenges and dangers, the potential for groundbreaking discoveries was immense. They had to keep pushing forward, guided by their shared commitment to knowledge and exploration. As they continued their work, the tension between the two teams began to ease. The near disaster had served as a stark reminder of the stakes involved, and there was a growing recognition of the need for cooperation. Cassie looked around at her team, her heart swelling with pride. They were resilient and dedicated, driven by a passion for discovery. She knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was confident that together, they could overcome them. "This is what we came here for," she thought, her resolve strengthening. To explore, to discover, and to push the boundaries of human knowledge. With that thought, she turned back to her work, ready to face whatever lay ahead in the depths of the earth. The days following the near collapse of the chamber had been filled with tense but productive work. Cassie Hale and her team meticulously documented the petroglyphs, analyzed the crystalline dust, and took numerous soil samples. The discoveries were groundbreaking, but a sense of impending danger always loomed. The fragile truce with Victor Kane's team was uneasy at best. Cassie was deep in thought, examining a set of petroglyphs that seemed to depict a cataclysmic event, when an urgent shout pierced the air. She turned to see Raj sprinting towards her, his face etched with panic. "Cassie, we have a problem. A big one." Before she could ask for details, a violent tremor shook the ground, more intense than any they had felt before. Cassie's heart pounded. This was no ordinary quake. "Everyone, grab your gear and move out now," she yelled, her voice carrying the authority of life or death urgency. The team scrambled to gather their equipment, the air thick with the acrid smell of disturbed minerals. The cavern walls began to crack, chunks of rock breaking loose and crashing to the ground. A low, ominous rumble grew louder, reverberating through the entire subterranean network. Cassie realized with horror that the chamber they were in was on the brink of a catastrophic collapse. "We need to get to higher ground," she shouted, pointing to a series of rocky ledges that led upwards. "Move quickly, but carefully." The ground beneath them heaved violently as if the earth itself were rebelling. Cassie led the way, climbing the first ledge and extending a hand to help Raj up. Mei Ling followed, her face pale but determined. Victor and his team were right behind them, their expressions a mix of fear and resolve. As they ascended, a deafening roar filled the chamber. Cassie glanced back to see a massive fissure opening in the floor, swallowing equipment and sending debris flying. The walls began to cave in, giant slabs of rock crashing down with terrifying force. "Keep moving," Cassie urged, her voice straining against the cacophony. She reached the next ledge and hoisted herself up, muscles burning with exertion. The team followed, each step a race against time. Suddenly, the ledge they were climbing cracked and shifted. Cassie's heart lurched as she saw Mei Ling lose her footing, sliding towards the edge. Without thinking, Cassie lunged forward, grabbing Mei's arm just in time. "Hold on," Cassie grunted, pulling Mei back to safety. They both scrambled up the ledge, breathless and shaken. "We can't stop," Victor shouted, pointing to an opening above them. "There's a way out up there." Cassie nodded, rallying her team for the final push. They climbed with every ounce of strength they had left, the ground trembling violently beneath them. The roar of collapsing rock was deafening, but the sight of the opening ahead spurred them on. Just as they reached the top, a massive explosion rocked the chamber. Cassie turned to see a geyser of molten magma erupting from the fissure, the intense heat scorching the air. The magma flow surged towards them, consuming everything in its path. "Go, go, go!" Cassie screamed, pushing her team through the opening. They tumbled into a narrow tunnel, the heat from the magma searing their backs. The tunnel walls vibrated with the force of the explosion, but they kept moving, driven by sheer survival instinct. They emerged into a new chamber, smaller and more stable, the roar of the catastrophe still echoing behind them. The team collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, hearts pounding from the adrenaline. Cassie looked around, taking stock of their situation. They had escaped the immediate danger, but the cavern system was clearly unstable. They needed a plan, and fast. Victor, covered in dust and sweat, approached Cassie. "We can't stay here. The whole system is at risk of collapse. We need to find a way to the surface." Cassie nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to move cautiously and find a safe route. Everyone, stay close and stay alert." They rose to their feet, gathering what gear they could salvage. Cassie led the way, her determination unwavering despite the enormity of the challenge ahead. The teams moved through the narrow tunnels, the sound of distant tremors a constant reminder of the peril they faced. As they navigated the twisting passages, Cassie couldn't help but think about the petroglyphs depicting a cataclysm. It was as if history was repeating itself, a cycle of destruction and rebirth. She resolved to uncover the truth behind the ancient civilization that once thrived here, even as they fought for their survival. Hours passed as they trekked through the subterranean maze, the tension and exhaustion wearing on everyone. But Cassie's determination never wavered. She knew that they were on the brink of not just a scientific breakthrough, but a deeper understanding of the Earth's mysteries. Finally, they emerged into a large chamber with a jagged opening above, through which a faint light shone. Cassie felt a surge of hope. "That's our way out," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "We're almost there." With renewed energy, the teams climbed towards the light, the promise of safety and discovery driving them forward. As they reached the opening and clambered out into the fresh air, the enormity of their journey hit Cassie. They had survived the depths of the earth, uncovering secrets and forging a fragile alliance in the process. Cassie looked at her team, her heart swelling with pride and relief. "We made it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But this is just the beginning. There's so much more to learn, and so many more challenges to face." They stood together, looking back at the cavern entrance, a sense of awe and accomplishment washing over them. Cassie knew that their journey was far from over, but with their combined strength and determination, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The relief of reaching the surface was short-lived. As Cassie Hale and her team caught their breath, the ground beneath them rumbled ominously, a stark reminder that the cavern system was still on the brink of collapse. They had escaped the immediate danger, but they were far from safe. Cassie turned to Victor Kane, his face still pale from their harrowing escape. "We need to find a more stable area to regroup. This ground isn't secure." Victor nodded, a rare moment of agreement passing between them. "Agreed. We should head for higher ground, away from the fault lines." The teams moved swiftly, navigating the rocky terrain with a renewed sense of urgency. The landscape around them was a stark contrast to the lush jungle they had descended from. Jagged rocks jutted out from the ground, and the air was filled with the acrid scent of sulfur. As they climbed, Cassie's thoughts raced. They needed to figure out what had caused the seismic activity and how to prevent further collapses. The petroglyphs they had discovered hinted at an ancient cataclysm, but the details were still shrouded in mystery. "Cassie, over here!" Raj called out, pointing to a sheltered alcove in the rocks. "This area looks stable enough for now." They gathered in the alcove, taking stock of their situation. Cassie pulled out her father's old journal, flipping through the pages for any clues that might help them understand the seismic events. "We need to find the source of these tremors," Cassie said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. There has to be a way to stabilize the area. Before they could delve further, a series of loud cracks echoed through the air. Cassie looked up to see a fissure opening in the ground, splitting the rocky terrain with alarming speed. "Everyone move!" she shouted, but it was too late. The ground beneath them gave way, and they tumbled into another chamber below, the world turning into a blur of rock and dust. Cassie landed hard, the impact knocking the wind out of her. She groaned, pushing herself up and scanning the area. The chamber they had fallen into was vast, illuminated by the faint glow of bioluminescent fungi clinging to the walls. "Is everyone okay?" she called out, her voice echoing in the cavern. One by one, her team members responded, shaken but unharmed. Victor's team was also regrouping, their expressions grim. "We can't keep going like this," Victor said, his voice filled with frustration. "We need to find a way out and fast." Cassie nodded, her mind working furiously. "There has to be another exit. We need to keep moving." They pushed deeper into the chamber, the ground beneath them trembling with each step. The atmosphere was tense, every shadow and sound a potential threat. Suddenly, a deep, resonant hum filled the air, and the ground began to shake violently. Cassie turned to see a massive stalactite breaking free from the ceiling, hurtling towards them. "Watch out!" she yelled, diving to the side just as the stalactite crashed to the ground, sending shards of rock flying. The team scattered, dodging falling debris as the chamber continued to shake. Cassie's heart raced as she spotted a narrow tunnel on the far side of the cavern. "This way!" she shouted, waving them towards the tunnel. They sprinted towards the tunnel, navigating the treacherous ground with desperate speed. As they reached the entrance, another explosion rocked the cavern, the force of it nearly knocking them off their feet. Cassie turned to see a geyser of molten magma erupting from the fissure, the heat searing. "We need to keep moving," she urged, leading them into the tunnel. The passage was tight and winding, but it offered a brief respite from the chaos behind them. They moved quickly, the sound of the magma flow growing fainter with each step. The tunnel opened into a smaller chamber, and they paused to catch their breath. Cassie's mind raced. They were running out of options, and the seismic activity was getting worse. They needed a plan, and fast. "Cassie, look at this," Raj said, pointing to a series of markings on the wall. The petroglyphs depicted a series of tunnels leading to the surface, a potential escape route. "This could be our way out," Cassie said, hope sparking in her chest. "We need to follow these tunnels and see if they lead to safety." They navigated the tunnels with renewed determination, the promise of an escape driving them forward. The ground continued to tremble, but they pressed on, each step bringing them closer to the surface. As they emerged into a final chamber, the ground beneath them heaved violently, and a massive crack split the floor. Cassie looked up to see the chamber's ceiling beginning to collapse. "Move now!" she screamed, leading them towards an opening at the far end of the chamber. They sprinted towards the exit, the sound of crashing rock deafening. Just as they reached the opening, the ground gave way beneath Victor. Cassie turned to see him clinging to the edge of the fissure, his face twisted in fear. "Cassie, help!" he shouted, his grip slipping. Without hesitation, Cassie lunged forward, grabbing Victor's arm and pulling him to safety. They tumbled through the opening just as the chamber collapsed behind them, a wall of dust and debris filling the air. They emerged into the daylight, gasping for breath and covered in dirt. The sense of relief was overwhelming. They had made it, but the cost had been high. Cassie looked at Victor, their past animosity melting away in the face of their shared ordeal. "We need to work together if we're going to survive this," she said, her voice steady. Victor nodded, his expression sincere. "Agreed. Let's make sure we get out of here in one piece." They stood together, looking back at the cavern entrance, a sense of accomplishment and determination washing over them. Cassie knew their journey was far from over, but with their combined strength and resolve, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The sunlight felt almost foreign against their skin after the days spent in the depths of the earth. Cassie Hale took a moment to absorb the warmth and brightness, the fresh air filling her lungs. They had emerged battered but alive, each breath a testament to their resilience. "Let's set up camp here," Cassie instructed. "We need to regroup and figure out our next steps." The teams moved with a sense of shared purpose, the recent ordeal having forged a bond between them. They worked quickly to establish a temporary base, a flurry of activity as they erected tents and organized their remaining supplies. Victor Kane approached Cassie, his expression serious. "We need to contact the surface and report everything we've found. The seismic activity is too dangerous to ignore." Cassie nodded. "Agreed. We need to send our data and request immediate assistance. This area is unstable, and more lives could be at risk." They set up their communications equipment, the satellite link crackling to life. Mei Ling and Raj worked diligently to compile their findings, transmitting data and requesting an emergency response. The gravity of their discoveries weighed heavily on them all. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape, Cassie gathered the teams around a small campfire. The flickering flames provided a semblance of normalcy amidst the uncertainty. "We've been through a lot together," Cassie began, her voice steady and clear. "We've faced dangers we couldn't have imagined, but we've also made incredible discoveries. We need to reflect on what we've learned and how we can use this knowledge to protect our planet." Victor nodded in agreement. "The petroglyphs, the seismic activity, it all points to a history we don't fully understand. We need to continue our research, but with caution and respect for the environment." Raj spoke up, his voice filled with conviction. "The ancient civilization that once thrived here left us clues. We need to honor their legacy by ensuring we don't repeat the same mistakes." Mei Ling added, "Our priority should be stabilizing the area and preventing further collapses. We have the data. Now we need the resources to act." Cassie looked around at the determined faces of her team and Victor's. Despite their initial conflicts, they had found common ground in their shared mission. "We've come a long way," she said, "and we still have a long road ahead. But together we can make a difference." As the night grew darker, they took turns keeping watch, the distant rumble of the earth a constant reminder of the challenges they faced. Cassie sat by the fire, her father's journal in hand, reflecting on their journey. "We're not just explorers," she thought. "We're guardians of this world's secrets, and it's our responsibility to protect them." Morning dawned with a renewed sense of purpose. The satellite communication brought news that a rescue and research team was on its way, equipped to stabilize the area and continue the investigation. Relief mingled with anticipation as they prepared for the arrival of reinforcements. Cassie stood with Victor at the edge of the camp, overlooking the cavern entrance that had been both their gateway and their prison. "We've only scratched the surface," she said, her voice filled with determination. "There's so much more to uncover." Victor nodded. "And we'll do it together, with respect for what we've found and the dangers that come with it." As the rescue team arrived, a flurry of activity ensued. Scientists, engineers, and emergency personnel set to work, securing the area and preparing for further exploration. Cassie felt a sense of accomplishment mingled with responsibility. They had paved the way for a deeper understanding of the Earth's mysteries. In the following days, they worked closely with the new team, sharing their findings and ensuring the safety of the area. The collaboration was a testament to what they could achieve when they set aside differences and worked towards a common goal. On the final day, as they prepared to return to the surface world, Cassie gathered her team for one last moment of reflection. "We've made history here," she said, "but this is just the beginning. Our work will continue, and the knowledge we've gained will help protect our planet for generations to come." Victor stepped forward, extending a hand to Cassie. "Thank you for everything. We couldn't have done this without your leadership." Cassie shook his hand, a sense of camaraderie solidifying their bond. "And thank you for reminding us that sometimes the greatest discoveries come from the most unexpected alliances." As they ascended from the depths, leaving the subterranean world behind, Cassie felt a profound sense of closure and anticipation. Their journey had been perilous, but it had also been a testament to human curiosity, resilience, and the unyielding quest for knowledge. Standing on the surface, With the sun shining brightly above, Cassie knew that they had not just survived, they had thrived. And with their combined strength and determination, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead, continuing their journey of discovery and protection of the Earth's hidden secrets. Did you find the golden star in the video? If you did, leave a comment with the time you saw it to be mentioned in our next video. Thanks for spending a moment of your day with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps a lot. If you don't, well, I'll still love you. Thanks for stopping by.